Welcome to Executive Access, created for motivated professionals. This is your home for real talk with executives about their career journeys, leadership practices, successes, and learnings along the way. I am your host, Jamie Tazi. Today, I want to talk about communicating effectively. Really, what I want to talk about is that communicating effectively starts with understanding that really it's not about a focus on what you're saying. It's a focus on whether the receiver or the listener is really understanding what you are saying. We often get frustrated, at least I do, when I'm trying to communicate something and I see a blank stare or people just don't get what I'm saying. But the reality is, we can only control ourselves. And so we have to be excellent at saying things in a way that others can hear it. So there are three things that you want to keep in mind to say it the way others can hear it. The first thing is tell them where you are going. Did you ever get picked up by somebody in a car and you start driving and the person isn't driving where you expected? Maybe they picked you up from the airport, you jump in, you're excited, you start chatting, and then the person takes a different turn than you were expected. If you're like me, you immediately start to check out. You're not listening to what that person is saying. You just keep thinking, where the heck are we going? What's going on here? Why aren't we going this way? Everything in your head is distracting you from actually the focus and the communication at hand. And so the first thing you want to do is tell them where you are going. So the way you do this is you simply frame the first part of a discussion. You might say, this is the goal of our discussion today. This is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is how I'm going to walk you through it. Are there any questions? This really simple tactic just helps everybody get on the same page. Everybody's very clear with where you're going because you've told them where you are going. The second thing you want to do to say it in a way that others can hear it is say it very simply. So when I say simple, I mean super, super simple. We are often experts. That's why we're communicating what we're communicating, and we forget that those around us are not as expert in things as we are. I often say that your expertise is an amazing asset, but it can also be a really bothersome liability if it gets in the way of good communication. So here's how I want you to test this out. Have you ever been frustrated that people just don't get what you're saying? Or worse yet, you say something in a meeting and nobody really reacts. And then a couple minutes later, another person says the exact same thing that you think you said, and everybody gets all excited about it. And you're like, hey, I just said that, right? That could be because you're not saying it simply enough that is really connecting with what people who are not as expert in something need to hear. I used to say back when I was in tech, I often had to explain technical concepts to my mom because my mom is incredibly smart, incredibly bright, and she's a great mom. She always wanted to know what I was working on. And so I had to learn to say these complex technical things in a way that my really smart mom would understand. So that's how I want you to think about it. Talk as simply as possible. It may feel weird to you. It's going to sound dumbed down and simple to you, but your listeners will appreciate it. Think about my mom. Say it like my very smart but not technical mom would understand. Let me give you an example. I can remember a time a few years ago, I was still at Microsoft and we had a business review. And one of the leaders on the team came to talk to us, and I could tell there were probably 12 people on the call. I could tell he was very animated, very upset and worked up about something that was going on. I could tell that by his attitude and the way he was communicating. And he talked for probably 4 or 5 minutes explaining a challenge that was happening. And finally, as I was listening intently, I noticed some of my peers had already checked out, but I was listening intently. I said to him, are you basically saying that we can't bill for our service right now? And he threw up his hands. He's like, yes, I guess if you want to just be that simple, yes, we can't bill for our service right now. Well, as soon as we said that, 12 years on the call perked up. What do you mean we can't bill for our service? We're giving away our service and we're not able to bill for it? We need to get on that issue right away. And the person that was bringing this to our attention was like, that's what I've been trying to tell you, right? The problem was he was speaking in such technical languages and in a way that we didn't understand because we weren't as technical as he is. Just say, we can't bill our customers. As simple as that. I would argue that saying things simply is important all the time, but in particular when you're communicating up, when you're communicating to people more senior in the organization than you. And it's not because they aren't as intelligent as you, it's because their remit is usually bigger. And if their remit is bigger, that means they don't have time to focus on your thing all the time. So naturally, they are not as big of an expert as you. So it must be simple. I took over a business once and I was not an expert in that business. And it turned out to be a gift because my team was super fired up. They're like, Jamie, we are not able to sell this service that you've just taken over. And everybody's frustrated with us. And I said, well, why aren't we able to sell it? And they gave me literally an Excel spreadsheet with 217 reasons, 217 lines explaining every technical challenge and customer challenge that there was with the service. My eyes sort of glazed over and I had to dig deep and I'm like picking through it. And finally I sat back and I said, well, so what you're basically telling me is our customers won't buy this service because our product is not enterprise ready. Our team and partners don't make money selling it and nobody believes in the quality of the service. Is that what you're saying? And once again, they sort of threw up their hands. They're like, yeah, I mean, if you want to get that simple about it, yeah, that's what's going on. And I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. So I marched into the leader of our business's office and I told him those three things. Our product is not enterprise ready. Our team and partners are not making money and no one believes in the quality of your service. Of course, he was not happy to hear those things, but for the first time in months, real change started happening. That's what I mean about communicating really simply. It will feel very basic to you. You'll feel like you're dumbing down all of your knowledge and expertise, but trust me, that's how you're going to be super effective. The third thing you need to do to say it the way others can hear it is what I call the so what, who cares test. You need to recognize that everybody you're speaking to has a different view than you do, slightly different. A couple episodes ago, I talked about how every view matters, and each person's view is like a different view in the same building, but on a different floor. So you really need to understand and think about ahead of time, what does this person care about? What is the view out their window? What is the best way to get my point across so that they will understand? And a great way to test this is ask yourself constantly in your head, think about what you want to say, and then ask yourself, so what? Who cares? So what? Are they going to understand it? Who cares? Are they going to care about it? And keep working at your message until you get it right. One extra thing that I want to talk to you about is when you are leading a team, remember that the absence of communication is actually hazardous. People usually fill the gaps and voids in communication, not with positive expectations and thoughts, but negativity and stress. It's literally how our brains are wired. When we have an absence of communication, we worry and we stress and we assume not always the great intent. So as a leader, you need to really think about this and never let gaps in communication be there because they will be filled with something you don't want them to be filled with. I want to talk to you about something that I call the radio is working. Years ago, I was leading a team. It was during a really challenging time. Our business was challenged and I was struggling a little bit. My team was struggling. And one Saturday night, my husband and I were watching a movie, and it was a war movie. I can't remember the name. But all of these soldiers were hunkered down behind some cover, getting shot out from above. And they heard on the radio, get out from behind that cover and go take that hill. And they responded back over the radio, we can't move from where we are. We're pinned down. Please send in reinforcements. And then what they heard back on the radio was this. They clearly heard their instructions, but they had no idea whether the people on the other line heard what their predicament was. So what did they do? Well, in this scenario, in this movie, they did move out from behind their cover. In that moment, planes came in, provided air cover, and they were saved. But I turned to my husband at that moment and I said, I feel exactly like those soldiers that are pinned down. I clearly have my marching orders, but I'm not sure anybody up there understands what my situation is. And from that point on, it hit me. I needed to use this radio's working analogy. I need to make sure my team understands that while I may not have all the solutions and things to fix their problems today, the radio is working. And so I would start team meetings and I would say, hey, here's what I'm hearing from some of you. There are some challenges in our business. Maybe it's your compensation, or it's we haven't quite figured out this one thing. Don't worry, we're going to fix that. But in the meantime, stay focused and let's go. And what I started realizing was people don't need you to fix their problems overnight. You eventually have to fix them, but they don't need you to fix their problems. What they really want to hear is that you understand them so that they have the confidence and ability to move forward. So when you're leading a team, make sure that you don't let any absence of communication stand. Fill the gap. Make sure you're repeating back to your team an understanding of what they're actually facing, which, by the way, means that you have to get out there and ask questions and learn about what the challenges are with your team. So that's how you can say it the way others can hear it. Tell them where you are going. Say it in a really simple way and apply the so what, who cares test to everything. The best way you can start practicing this today, start meetings, every meeting, with a where you're going statement. Notice how others communicate around you. What inspires you? What demotivates you? Think about what you can pull in from learnings from others. Practice saying things very simply. It's going to feel weird to you at first and awkward, but think about my amazing mom. And focus on understanding the views of everybody around you so that you can say things in a way that really makes sense to your listener. Thank you for listening today. Drop a comment to share what you are noticing and learning in your practice. Don't forget to subscribe to the Executive Access to receive new content every week. Thank you.